my final project, I decided to build a diddley bow. The diddley bow is one of the most influential instruments behind the development of the blues, and as a longtime blues guitar fan, I thought this would be the most appropriate project for me to undertake. The original diddley bows were made with only the materials players had at hand. Many players used little more than an old board, a couple of nails, leftover wire, and a bottle or tin can. The nails were used to secure the ends of the wire to the board, and the bottle or tin can was placed under the wire to adjust its tightness and to amplify the sound of the instrument. The diddley bow is a homemade one-stringed instrument that is of West African origin. It is based on the African musical bow, a simple stringed instrument that is part of many African cultures. The diddley bow is easy to make and learn to play, and was the starting instrument for many blues musicians when they were young. There are many gifted players of this instrument. One notable player was the street musician one-string Sam Wilson. In 1956, a then unknown Wilson entered Joe's record shop in Detroit, Michigan, carrying a diddley bow. In the back of the shop was a recording studio, and it was there that Sam recorded two songs, I Need $100 and My Baby Oh. Sam played on the streets of Detroit for a few years and then disappeared for nearly 2 decades. He resurfaced briefly in 1973 and played a few shows, including ones with legendary blues musician B.B. King, before once again vanishing into blues history. Another notable musician famous for playing the diddley bow was famed Mississippi blues artist Lonnie Pitchford. A Delta blues musician, Pitchford was known for playing a diddley bow he made by stretching a wire between two nails that were driven into a post on his front porch. After his passing, per the wishes of his family, his headstone was specially designed with a playable one-string diddley bow mounted on the side. I was initially so excited to build a diddley bow that I had a hard time determining how I wanted to start. I eventually decided that I'd make two instruments, one more traditional made only with materials I had at home, and another more complex instrument built with some cool and unique items I could find inexpensively at thrift stores and yard sales. My first diddley bow would be built entirely from things I already had on hand around my house. I keep some leftover hardware on hand for miscellaneous projects, and had a few packs of replacement guitar strings to use in the build. There was an old board on the wall of my garage that was put there by the previous owner as a makeshift tool hanger. I took it down and used a portion of it for the base of my instrument. An old metal tool handle completed my materials list to be used as a makeshift slide. For my first build, I started by drilling holes into the board to attach a leftover door hinge to the end of the wood. I then installed an eye bolt near the top of the wood face. Next, I took 56mm bronze guitar string and ran it through one of the holes on the hinge, looping it through itself. I pulled the string through the center of the eye bolt and screwed the eye bolt further into the wood to tighten the string. I then attached an old latch to the board underneath the string. This raised the string and created a bridge of sorts for the bow. Here are some more images of the process. There were some minor adjustments necessary during the build to try to get the string to stay in tune. I ended up tightening down the hinge to get the desired string tension and added a glass shot glass under the string to amplify the sound. Here is a look at the finished product of the first build. For my second build, I found an old wine box at a thrift store and got an axe handle from a local hardware store. I cut a hole in one side of the wine box and inserted the axe handle, then secured it to the other side of the box with wood screws. I secured the axe handle to the wine box with some more wood screws. I then cut holes in a piece of scrap plywood I found to make a faceplate / soundboard for the box. This was then nailed to the wine box with finishing nails. As with the first instrument build, I used an old decorative hinge I found as the tailpiece of the Diddley Bow. I attached it to the end of the wine box with wood screws and installed eye bolts on the top parts of the axe handle. This time, I decided to make it a two-stringed instrument. I looped the strings through the hinge at the center of the eye bolts. I also screwed a small metal piece into the faceplate near the top of the box to lift the strings and keep them from rubbing on the wood. As I screwed the eye bolt further into the axe handle to tighten the strings, I realized the metal piece I had installed, coupled with the placement of the eye bolts, didn't allow the strings proper room to vibrate to make the sound. To remedy this, I removed the metal piece and moved the eye bolts from the side of the axe handle to the face, directly in line with the hinge. Once again, as with the first build, I inserted a glass shot glass under the strings to amplify the sound. Here is the finished product of the second build. One final part of the project I wanted to attempt was making a slide. I found an old ceramic vase at a thrift shop and decided to turn that into my slide. To do this, my fiancée assisted me in breaking the neck off of the vase, as she wanted to be the one to break it. And then I chipped the remaining larger parts off into the trash. In keeping with traditional methods, I then sanded the jagged edge of the makeshift ceramic slide on the sidewalk until it was smooth. I touched up some minor rough spots on the inside with a piece of sandpaper. Now with both builds and the slide finished, take a listen to how they both sound. So this is the traditional build of the Diddley Bow. This is my first build. As you can see, it's just the standard plank of wood that I cut down. I attached the hinge to the back, drilled that in there, connected the guitar string here, brought it over the handle for the bridge and the shot glass, and then I brought it all the way down and looped it in and secured it with the eye bolt there. So I'm going to use the metal slide that was the old tool handle first on it to get a sound, and then we'll go to the ceramic slide. And then with the ceramic slide, and that is the traditional Diddley Bow. So this is my second build, the more modern Diddley Bow, taken from materials that I found around town. Got the body of it here. It's kind of more of a cigar style type box two-string Diddley Bow. This was an old wine box, and then I took an axe handle and I ran it through and connected at the bottom. And then, like the first one, I used an old hinge as a tailpiece. I ran it over. I have some sound holes cut out here on this board that I salvaged for the front. I've got, once again, a shot glass there to help with the amplification of the sound. and then all the way up here to some eye bolts at the top for the tuning pegs. We're going to give it a try just like with the first one, with the first slide being the metal, the old tool handle slide, and then the ceramic slide from the vase. So let's see how it sounds. So that's the metal slide, and now the ceramic slide. And that is the second build of the Diddley Bow. In closing, I've always connected with the blues because it evokes emotions large and small and allows people to be heard. The music doesn't have to be complex, nor do the instruments have to be the most elaborate. A prime example of this is the Diddley Bow. It has deep roots in African American folk music and has had a powerful influence on the birth of the blues. Though usually little more than a board and some wire, the Diddley Bow allows individuals without many means to express themselves through music. I feel my final result was successful. Not only was I able to create 2 Diddley Bows that I'm proud of, but I feel a deeper admiration for those who influenced and molded the music I've grown to appreciate and love so much.